The purpose of this is to walk through an overall risk management strategy if you're going through an e-commerce platform replacement. Basically, if you're replacing any software platform, regardless of what it does, if it has any business criticality at all, then there is a business risk involved in making that change. Um, there's things you can do to size up what your risk is and also to mitigate your risk. I'm going to hone in specifically on e-commerce related platforms. So a major component of SIM, customer interaction management, or SIM cloud, is e-commerce. So I'm going to hone in on e-commerce. We see a lot of customers that come into SIM cloud that are replacing a previous e-commerce platform. We also have some classic customers of Website Pipeline or SIM cloud that are going through a migration to get to the latest version of SIM cloud. Both of those are considered platform replacements. You're basically replacing your pre-existing platform with a new platform on the e-commerce side. So I'm going to walk through basically a simple risk assessment questionnaire you can use to size up your risk, and then some risk mitigation steps that you can take as you're going through this. So the point of all this is effectively what you do preparing, going through your implementation project and preparing for go live. And then the way that you do a go live has a material impact on the business risk that you incur and take on. Ultimately, my bent is to be conservative, and if in doubt, take the conservative approach. I don't like jumping off cliffs. I would rather know what's going to happen when I go, or take small iterative steps to learn from it and de-risk the whole process of a live rollout on a new platform. There's simple steps you can take. They're not difficult, but they go a long way in risk mitigation. So the analogy I would give you is, if you've ever been to a new restaurant, the restaurant industry figured out a long time ago they shouldn't promote and announce the ground opening and make a big hoopla about it on the first day they actually open for business and have brand new waiters and new chefs and new food and everything else out there. Generally, they open sometimes for several months, breaking in staff, working out issues with their food or recipes, making sure they can execute before they go out and promote a big grand opening. They have basically what's called a soft launch. That is by far the best way in almost all cases to handle a platform replacement if you have any success on your existing e-commerce platform. So we'll talk through those steps here in a second. The first thing you can do is use this risk assessment. It's just a simple questionnaire. This thing was not meant to be comprehensive. It was meant to be really simple to give you a quick a rough idea of where you stand on the risk spectrum. If you have a super business critical e-commerce application, you may want to do a much more exhaustive check than this, but this is a simple litmus test. So the first thing is, how many online transactions are you getting a month on your platform? So orders is the most common one. It could be quotes, invoice payments, returns. If you have customer support or ticketing, you may include those in. Those are kind of major workflows or transactions that are occurring on your e-commerce platform. And basically, this is just simply, if you have less than 500 a month, it's 0 points. 500 to 1,000 is 1 point, and then each additional 1,000, just give yourself another point. So if you have 4,800 orders a month coming through your e-commerce platform, that's 5 risk points. The percent of your total business. So this is kind of the sacrifice level or the business criticality level of your e-commerce platform. How much of your total business is running through it? And this is basically a simple point scale you can use from all the way going at 80% plus your business is on e-commerce down to less than 10%. My new or existing platform has the following level of custom modification. So these next two questions are really getting into the complexity level of your e-commerce application, particularly with SimCloud that's integrated very deeply with ERP systems. The more complex you get in the software features or bundles that you get, and or the level of customizations you make, you're adding additional risk and complexity to the overall application that's amplified by integrations with the ERP system because of all the data that has to operate. So this is a simple litmus test just based on man hours. What kind of labor hours went into the implementation project related to customization and sizing up points? And then we have add-on bundles, basically sizing up the quantity of your add-on bundles in the SimCloud application. If you have 5 add-on bundles, you'd go with 5 extra points. It's just adding more complexity as you pile on more functionality into the application. The existing e-commerce platform, this looks at if you have a public-facing platform, so you're taking business from anonymous users, either just a public-facing catalog or a public-facing store, meaning you have a shopping cart, and you're getting any material traffic from digital marketing, particularly organic or paid search. Looking at the traffic and understanding it. If you have a significant e-commerce business, you should be able to look at your analytics or whatever and size this up. But basically size up the points based on traffic. It's critical for continuity traffic. Anytime you switch e-commerce platform, doesn't matter what platform you're going to or from, there is risk associated with that platform change and the way search engines index you and the way they treat you as you're going through it. So you need to take a very careful care on how you go through the platform change to make sure you're doing things. There's a number of best practices that we could show you based on feedback from customers. There's outside experts. We do not have in-house experts on search traffic. You need to go outside for that or use an in-house expert at your company to handle that. But this is a critical piece that needs to be planned and worked and addressed. Setting things like search engine friendly URLs and metadata on all your products and content and categories, making sure your entire page structure is set up properly and your content. Making sure you have 301 redirects set up for old URLs that were indexed to basically maintain that domain authority and get the traffic routed and have the search engines treat you fairly as you're going through that platform change. So just add up the points here. And then the recommendations, really on the risk mitigation steps, we'll walk through these in a second. Everyone should take risk mitigation steps 1 through 4 if you're replacing a platform, regardless of how business critical or successful that platform is. Risk mitigation step number 5, using a gradual or soft launch rollout. The more business critical or the higher risk your application is, the more it's recommended you go through all 3 waves or even add additional waves. And there's an article on there that explains what the waves are. But just looking at the points, if you're between 1 and 5 points, then use wave 1 of the soft launch. And we would recommend even considering all 3 waves, heavily considering it. If in doubt, do it. 6 through 10, use all 3 waves, and absolutely if you're at 11 plus on the 3 waves. So there's additional work associated with the 3 waves, but basically what the waves are doing is you're doing a gradual live rollout, kind of like the restaurant concept. So you're basically finding out through internal in-house workers or employees, and then select customers, and then a wider customer base. You're finding out exactly if there's any issues, number 1, if there was things that were forgotten or missed during the implementation, and you're snuffing those out, 1, in an arena where people know that they're in a beta mode, so they're more likely to stick with you and provide feedback versus being judgment day. And number 2, you're doing it with a smaller, more controlled audience, so you have the time to iterate and address those things and stabilize before you go to a wider rollout. So it's just a smart strategy with any major software applications to go through that. Your mitigation steps are making sure you have an implementation plan. There's lots of content in the Help Center on that, and a rollout plan. So be deliberate about what you're doing. Identify your major workflows. So placing orders is a very typical one in e-commerce that goes from finding the products through adding to cart, through checking out, making sure things like taxes, shipping methods are showing up properly and the calculations are properly, and looking at variations in placing those orders as you're going through paying invoices. There may be other custom workflows or quote workflows that go on. Those are very typical. So I would identify the workflows, name them, and then make sure you have a plan to have your workers thoroughly test each one of those workflows. And I would get people that are frontline workers. So if you have a customer service rep that addresses a custom workflow for made-to-order products or something like that, a custom quote workflow, I would have them be the one that's testing that custom workflow to make sure they're identifying the nuances and testing the reality of it. And they should be doing it in a test mode before you start taking live orders, and then in a live mode before you do the full rollout and just do a jump off the cliff cutover from your old site to the new one. So thoroughly test this. a good rule of thumb is 30 to 100 live workflows or transactions going through those, or maybe 1 to 2 weeks of people. If you've got phone, fax, email orders coming in or quote requests coming in, have those reps actually do it on the e-commerce application and run through it and make sure it's all working. You're going to generally find all kinds of data issues or setup issues or small usability issues, all correctable. And particularly when you don't have a gun to your head because you're in a beta mode or you're in a test mode and then a beta mode that's a live beta mode as you're rolling out. So have your workers thoroughly test. That is one of the waves in the soft launch, by the way, so there's some overlap here. And then carry over search engine and digital marketing penetration campaigns. This is critical if you have any public-facing assets. And then using this gradual or soft launch rollout strategy, there's a whole article that explains this strategy more and the specific waves that are in this strategy. So you can go through details of this as you understand more about or want to learn more about this soft launch rollout strategy. But the key on all this is if you're replacing a platform that has any level of success, you are incurring business risk. And it's important that you assess that risk and have a plan to mitigate the risk to try to do everything you can to have a successful live rollout and maintain a business continuity and be able to address unforeseen or foreseen things that are going to come up with the associated change, and just have a deliberate plan as you march forward. So we hope you have success with that. If there's things we can do to help, just let us know.